Have you ever noticed something strange about the kindest people you know? The ones who always check in on others. The ones who remember your birthday, your worries, your small victories. The ones who notice when something is wrong before you even say a word. Have you ever wondered, who checks in on them? There is a truth that most people never talk about. A quiet, aching truth that lives in the spaces between conversations, in the walk home after another evening, spent making sure everyone else was okay. The loneliest people in the world are often the kindest, not because kindness causes loneliness, but because something happened to them, long ago, quietly, without fanfare, that cracked them open just enough to see the pain in everyone around them. And this is the story of a woman named Maya, a woman the whole town loved, a woman who had never once felt truly seen. Maya was 32 years old, and she ran the only bakery in a small town in Vermont called Millhaven. She woke up at 4 a.m. every morning, not because she had to, but because she genuinely loved the quiet of those early hours. The way the town was still sleeping and the oven was warm, and the smell of bread dough was the only thing in the world. She knew everyone in Millhaven, and more importantly, she remembered things. She remembered that old Mr. Caruso's wife had passed in November, and so every November she left a small apple pie on his doorstep without a note, because he was too proud to accept charity. But she knew he needed something warm. She remembered that the teenage boy who bought a cinnamon roll every Thursday, Eli, had told her once, offhandedly, that his parents were going through stuff. So she always gave him an extra roll, without making it a thing, without making him feel pitied. She remembered that the woman in the yellow raincoat, who came in every Wednesday, was recently divorced, because she had started ordering 1 croissant instead of 2. And so Maya had started making the croissants slightly larger on Wednesdays. The whole town loved Maya. "She's an angel," they said at the diner. "I don't know what this town would do without her," they said at the school fundraiser. "She's always so happy," they said. "Always so warm." And Maya would smile and nod and go back to her bakery and sit down on the flour-dusted stool behind the counter after everyone had left for the day. And in the silence, she would fold her hands in her lap and feel the particular weight of a heart that gives and gives and gives, and wonders, quietly and without bitterness, if anyone will ever give back. Maya had learned kindness the way most deeply kind people learn it, not from a book, not from a lesson, from necessity. She had grown up in a house where the air was always a little too tight. Her parents were not cruel people. They were simply unhappy people, the way many people are unhappy, quietly, chronically, without knowing quite why. And when unhappy adults live together, their unhappiness tends to fill the rooms, seep under doors, settle into the lungs of the children who live there. And Maya, without anyone asking her to, without anyone noticing she was doing it, had become the peacemaker. She learned that if she brought her father his coffee exactly the way he liked it, unprompted, he would soften. She learned that if she made her mother laugh, a real laugh, not a polite one, the tension in her shoulders would drop, and the whole house would breathe again. She learned that a drawing slid under a door could sometimes say what no one in the family was willing to say out loud. "I see you. I love you. Please don't leave." She was not taught that her own feelings mattered less. No one said that to her. No one had to. She simply absorbed it, the way children absorb everything, from the shape of her world. From the fact that when she was sad, no one came. But when she made someone else feel better, the world became safer. So she kept making people feel better. For 20 years, she kept making people feel better. And she was very, very good at it. And she was very, very lonely. His name was James, and he had come to Millhaven for reasons he hadn't quite admitted to himself yet. He had been a journalist in Boston for 11 years. Good at his job, respected. And then one Tuesday, without warning, he had stood up in the middle of a staff meeting, said, "I'm sorry, I need some air," walked out of the building, gotten in his car, and driven north until the city disappeared. He had ended up in Millhaven because his car needed gas and the town looked quiet. That was 3 days ago. He was still here. "You didn't have to do that," James said. Maya paused. People didn't usually say that. They usually just said thank you and moved on. "The rain always makes coffee go cold faster," she said. "It's not a big deal." "It is, actually," he said. He was looking at her now. Really looking at her, the way people rarely did. No one asked you to. You just noticed. Maya didn't know what to say to that. She was not used to being noticed. Noticing. "I'm Maya," she said. "James," he said, and then, quietly, "Do you always take care of people like that?" She laughed, a short, slightly defensive sound. "It's just coffee. It's not just coffee," he said. "I've been sitting here for 2 hours. You've done at least 6 things for people in this room that nobody asked for. You remember how everyone takes their order before they say it. You gave that kid by the door an extra cookie when you thought no one was looking. You carried that woman's bag to the door." He paused. "You're always watching, always giving. Who watches out for you?" she said. "I'm fine." And James, who had spent 11 years as a journalist and knew the exact shape of a deflection, said simply, "I know, but that wasn't the question." She doesn't know why she sat down. She tells herself, it's because it's slow and there's nothing to do. But that isn't true. There's always something to do in a bakery. There is restocking and wiping and planning tomorrow's dough and 100 small tasks that she uses the way some people use noise to fill the quiet so the quiet can't fill her. But she sits down, and James doesn't make it strange. He doesn't push or prod or ask another pointed question. He just talks about his drive north, about a diner he stopped at in New Hampshire, where the pancakes were genuinely life-changing, about a dog he had seen sitting in someone's front window that looked exactly like it was conducting the rain like an orchestra. And Maya laughs. Really laughs, and the laughter surprises her. At some point, she can't remember exactly how. They are talking about real things. James tells her about the meeting he walked out of, about the feeling that had been building for years, like he was telling other people's stories and had completely forgotten to live his own. "Why do you think you do it?" Maya asks. "The walking out? Because I finally got tired enough," he said. "You can only ignore yourself for so long before something gives." A silence. Maya looks at her tea. "How long had it been building?" she asks. 7 years, he says. "Maybe more." Maya nods slowly. She understands this in a way she has never put words to before. "Do you ever?" she starts, then stops. "What?" "Do you ever feel like you're very good at being present for other people, and not very good at being present for yourself?" James is quiet for a moment. "Yes," he says. "Every single day." Another silence. But it is not an uncomfortable silence. It is the kind of silence that only exists between two people who have just recognized something true in each other. "I don't know how to ask for things," Maya says, and she hears the words as if someone else is saying them. "I never learned. I learned how to give. I learned how to read a room and feel what everyone needed and make it better. But asking for something for myself feels," she pauses, searches for the word, "terrifying." "Because you were taught that your job was to fix," James says quietly. "It is not a question." "Yes," she says. "I think so. But who fixed things for you?" And Maya, who has not cried in front of another person in 4 years, who is the one everyone else cries to, who holds space for the whole town's grief and joy and confusion, feels her eyes fill, just slightly, just for a moment. "No one," she says. "Not really. Here is what loneliness actually is. It is not being alone." Maya was rarely technically alone. She was surrounded by people every single day. The bakery, the town events, the neighbors, the regulars, the children, the elderly, the heartbroken, and the celebrating. Loneliness is being surrounded by people who know your name, and not a single one of them knows your story. Loneliness is being the person everyone calls when they need someone, and having no one to call when you need someone. Loneliness is giving so consistently, so generously, so warmly, that people stop asking if you're okay, because you are always so visibly, reassuringly, competently okay. Loneliness is wearing your kindness so well that it becomes a disguise. She had been lonely for so long she had forgotten it had a name. She had called it being independent. She had called it being an introvert. She had called it, this is just who I am. On the flour-dusted floor of her bakery, after a conversation with a stranger who had seen her, really seen her. In the space of one rainy afternoon, more clearly than most people had in years, she was beginning to think that maybe she had not been protecting herself. Maybe she had been hiding, not from other people, from herself, from the version of herself that needed things, that wanted things, that was allowed to be tired and empty and sad and confused and still worthy of love. Not because she was useful, not because she showed up for everyone else, but simply because she was a person, a full, complicated, worthy person. She almost didn't send it. The version of Maya that had existed for 32 years wanted to delete it, wanted to type, never mind, all good, and go back to her dough and never speak of it again, because asking for help, real help, not can you pass the salt help, but the deep, vulnerable kind of help, the kind where you admit that you are not okay, felt like stepping off a ledge. It felt like showing someone a room in your house you have always kept locked, a room where everything is dusty and not beautiful and maybe a little embarrassing, and handing them the key. But she had spent so long being the keeper of everyone else's locked rooms. She had been trusted with so many keys, and she thought, what if someone trusted me back? What if I let them? And something that had been very tightly wound for a very long time began slowly to loosen. Not all the way, not in one morning, but enough, like the first pull of a thread. She did not become a different person. She did not stop noticing when Mr. Caruso needed a pie, or when Eli needed an extra roll, or when the woman in the yellow raincoat needed a slightly larger croissant. That was not the lesson. The lesson was not. Stop giving. The world needs people who give the way Maya gives. Who notice the small things. Who make someone's Tuesday slightly warmer without being asked. The world is better because people like Maya exist in it. But there is a difference, a very important difference, between giving from fullness and giving from emptiness. Between giving because you want to and giving because you are afraid of what happens if you stop. Between being kind and using kindness as a wall. James came back to Millhaven twice more that year. They were friends, good friends, the kind who understand each other in the way that only people who have looked honestly at themselves in front of each other can understand each other. He wrote a piece eventually, not about Maya, she would never have allowed that, but about small towns, and about the invisible labor of care, and about what we miss when we only look at the people who seem to have it all together. And when she read it, sitting in her bakery on a quiet Wednesday morning, she felt seen. Not because it was about her, but because someone had paid attention to the thing she had spent her whole life doing, and understood, finally, what it cost. If you are the kind person in every room, if you are the one who always shows up for others, who remembers the details, who holds the space, who asks the right questions and listens until the answer is finished, if you are the one who gives and gives and gives and tells yourself you are fine, you are strong, you don't need much, I want to say something to you. You are allowed to need things. You are allowed to be tired. You are allowed to walk into a room and be the one who is helped instead of the one who helps. You are allowed to send the message, make the call, open the door. You are allowed to let someone else carry something for you, even for a little while. Your kindness is one of the most beautiful things about you, but it was never meant to be a trade. You were never supposed to earn love by making yourself useful to everyone around you. You deserve the same warmth you pour out so freely, not because you earned it, but because you are here, because you exist. Because you are a person, not just a caretaker, not just a helper, not just the one who makes sure everyone else is okay. A person. The loneliest people are often the kindest because they understand, deeply, personally, from the inside of their own chest, what it feels like to need warmth and not have it. They give the world what they themselves needed once, what maybe no one gave them. And there is something almost unbearably beautiful about that. But you do not have to stay lonely to stay kind. You can be both, warm and held, giving and given to. You can let someone see the room you keep locked. You can hand someone the key. The bread will still rise in the morning. The town will still be there. And so will you. A little less empty, a little more whole, a little more allowed to be everything you already are. Thank you for watching Soul Spark. If this story touched something in you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you are carrying someone else's weight right now, I hope you know. It is okay to put it down for a moment. It is okay to breathe. It is okay to let someone love you back. We will see you in the next story.